Hello and welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, another one of our folktales from Man by Sophia Morrison. This is The Old Christmas, which was read into the public domain through LibriVox by Larry Wilson. Thanks to him and his production team at LibriVox. I'd just like to stress that this folktale comes from at least the 16th century, because The Old Christmas is a transposition of the date of the Christmas in the Julian calendar onto the Gregorian calendar once it replaces the Julian in 1582, he says, groping into his memory. The disagreement as to which Christmas should be celebrated is ameliorated a little by some folk traditions that have 12 days of Christmas, which means Little Christmas or Old Christmas or Women's Christmas, depending on where you come from, can still be celebrated within that 12-day period, becoming a sort of culminating festival. However, in 1220, when most sagas are set, there is no question as to which is the appropriate Christmas, at least within the Western Church, and so the Christmas miracles, which are about to be discussed, are observable on a known day. Those of you familiar with later Catholic theology would point out that the idea of demanding a miracle is tempting God and is theoretically sacrilegious, but folk traditions don't care about these sorts of things.
In the days of our grandmothers, Old Christmas Day, the 5th of January, was believed to be the true Christmas. On Black Thomas's Eve, which was the first day of the Christmas holidays, the spinning wheels all had to be put away, the making of nets ceased, and no work of any kind must be done until the 12th day. But there was once an old woman named Peggy Shimmin, a Ballacooil, and she was bent on finishing some spinning that she had begun. So on Old Christmas Eve she said to herself, "The new Christmas is past, and surely it's no wrong to do a bit of spinning to-night," though she doubted in her heart if she were not sinning. So when himself and the rest were in bed, she called her young servant girl, Lil Margad, and said, "Margad, me and you will finish the spinning to-night." Margad was frightened terrible, but she got out her wheel and sat beside her mistress. The two began to spin, and they were spinning and spinning till near midnight. And behold ye, just before midnight old Peggy saw the flax she was drawing from the distaff grow blacker and blacker, till it was as black as tar. But Margad's flax did not change colour, because she had only done what her mistress bade her. Peggy dropped the flax quick, put away her wheel, and crept in fear to bed. She knew now which was the true Christmas Day, and never more did she spin on Old Christmas Eve. Margad was left alone in the kitchen when her mistress had gone to bed, and at first she was trembling with fright. But she was a middling brave girl, and she took a notion, as there was no person to stop her, to see if all the things were true that she had heard about Old Christmas Eve. "They're saying," she thought, "that the bees are coming out, and 3-year-old bullocks going down on their knees, and the myrrh coming up in bloom." Then she says to herself, "I'm thinking I'll go out and watch the myrrh." So she put on a cloak round her, and crept out at the door into the cold frosty moonlit night. And midnight had just struck as she put her foot outside. She stooped to look on the spot where the myrrh root was buried, and as she was looking the earth began to stir and to crack, and soon 2 little green shoots pushed up to the air. She ran closer to see what would happen, and to her great wonder the leaves and stalks grew big and strong before her eyes, and then the buds began to show, and in a few minutes the lovely white flowers were in bloom, and the garden was sweet with their fragrance. Margad could do nothing but stare at them at first, but at last she dared to gather one small piece of the blossom, and she kept it for luck all her life. Then she went to the cow house and peeped through the door. She heard a groaning sound, and there were the young bullocks on their knees, moaning, and the sweat was dropping from them. Margad knelt down too, and put up a bit of prayer to the Holy Child that was born in a stall. But the wonders were not over yet, for as she went silently back to the house, She noticed that the bees were singing and flying round the hive. They were inside again when she shut the door of the house behind her. Always after that, when the neighbors would ask if she believed in the wonders of old Christmas Eve, she would say, "I know it's true, for I've seen it myself."